Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a very special edition marking the second day of Eid al-Fitr, the Lesser Baram, after the end of the holy month of Ramadan. And tonight we're going to be discussing the Decent Life Initiative, one of the biggest and most important national projects of Egypt's modern history. Now, the President and the government have been working relentlessly on the progress and development of the Decent Life project that targets more than 4,000 villages across all of Egypt. And the President has spoken about the start of the implementation of the second phase. Now, the first phase and the project in general has been initiated and inaugurated in January of 2019. So we are a few years in the first phase. Now we're ready to start the second phase. And let's check out, ladies and gentlemen, this report regarding the President talking about the implementation of the second phase of the Decent Life Initiative, and we'll be right back.
President Fattah al-Sisi has given his instructions to the Ministry of Local Development to spread good practices in local administration implemented by the Local Development Program in Upper Egypt and to benefit from them in rehabilitating the cadres of local units and centers targeted in the second phase of the presidential initiative Decent Life. Decent Life Initiative will be responsible for all actions during the planning process and implementation of rural development projects. The initiative aims to provide an integrated package of services including various aspects of health, social and living conditions. The Ministry of Local Development has organized the first training forum for the cadres of the units of the Presidential Initiative Decent Life in the offices of all governorates and the targeted centers in the second phase. The forum targeted 149 local cadres, including 42 Decent Life coordinators and cadres in the offices of all governorates, 52 Decent Life coordinators from the first phase centers in the governorates, and 55 Decent Life coordinators in the second phase centers in the governorates of غربية، إسماعيلية، مطروح، كفر الشيخ، جيزة، منوفية، دقهلية، فيوم، دمياط، تامينيا، أسيوط، سوهاج، أسوان، بني سويف، قليوبية، نيو فالي، شرقية، قنا، لوكسور، بحيرة and Alexandria. The forum aimed to support and build the capacities of local administrative cadres and raise efficiency and capabilities of local leaders and cadres in the field of change management. Major General Mahmoud Sha'rawi, the Minister of Local Development, stressed that the presidential initiative Decent Life, the largest development project in the world, and there is great appreciation from the political leadership and the Prime Minister for the role of localities in implementing and following up on the presidential initiative and national projects that are implemented in the governorates. Recently, the Cabinet discussed a number of draft resolutions and ministerial decisions aimed at achieving economic and social stability, encouraging investments, and implementing national mega projects, including Decent Life Initiative, which aimed at developing rural areas. It reviewed the social insurance umbrella as well as the files of developing state sectors as health, sports, education and transport, and how to take care of the low income brackets and meet the needs of citizens.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and now we're joined over the phone by Dr. Ibrahim Helal, the Professor of Engineering at Ain Shams University. Dr. Helal, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Dr. Helal, we're talking about the Decent Life Initiative. Now, it was inaugurated in January of 2019, and the President recently spoke about the implementation of the second phase. Now, before we start talking about the second phase, can you please give us a quick review regarding the first phase that started from 2019 up until now? What has been achieved so far?
As a matter of fact, the leadership has been, looking for the countryside, and perhaps this is for long decades hasn't happened that, each and every village in Egypt has been touched now with, a new touch of development and improving the standard of living. If you go everywhere in the almost 5,000, villages in this country, you can find either, tiling the canals or doing, the sewage
Excuse me, doctor, can you raise your voice a little bit louder, please?
Electricity, all, aspects of improvement of the standard of living for the country is being now carried out at the moment in these 5,000 villages. Lots of, work has been already achieved. And, for example, we were involved in, Asyut as an example. A lot of, electricity networks has been expanded. A lot of, waste and, sewage networks has been expanded. Now, almost you can say more than 90% of the projects has been carried out. And that's the reason that we are now moving to the second stage of this, very ambitious project and very generous project that, touched most of the Egyptians in the villages.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Helal, now, if we're entering the second phase, what do you expect the second phase would be like? What are the main characteristics? Are we going to do the same as the first stage, but in more villages? Are we going to build on what has been achieved so far during the first phase? Is it a different kind of process, or more of the same, just covering more villages in Egypt's countryside?
Yeah, basically the first choice that you have, referred to is, going to other governorates and the villages in the other governorates. So at the beginning, the focus was basically on the, Upper Egypt or South of Egypt, because these villages has been deprived from a higher standard of living for long decades. And that's why the political leadership has been, and the president has been, directed, the attention more to these, villages at the beginning. Now, where I think, you can find other villages in the, Delta area, Ismailia, Bahira, and other villages are being now, entertaining this kind of, touch and improvement.
Mm-hmm. And do you see any sort of results that not just affecting the actual villages in the countryside, but affecting the people? Does their daily life, their daily activities, their work, their bread and butter, did it change after the implementation of the first phase, or is it still too early? Are we still laying just basically the groundwork for the villages?
Yeah, basically I'm coming from a village. My background actually is coming from a village in nearby Cairo. And when I go now, I see so many things now are being carried out, and the people are feeling the touch of the improvement in roads, are being now paved within the villages and the inter-villages. The sewage, plants and treatment plants are being now carried out. The canals and tiling the canals to, save these villages from, so many, bad things that used to be done by, throwing up maybe the garbage and the other things like that in the canals. And it has been, a kind of collection for the bad bacteria. And so I think most of the people now are being, touched and feeling the real improvement in this project.
Mm-hmm. And what have been, during the first phase, what have been the biggest sort of, they're all steps forward, but what has been the biggest leap? Was it the infrastructure work, the roads, or was it the supply of gas and energy and electricity, or is it the medical sector, providing the clinics, providing proper hospitals for all of the farmers living in the villages, or is it in terms of education and developing the educational institutions and the schools over there?
Yeah, basically all of these, but if you can, put them in ranking, you can say that, healthcare projects are being now reaching to all the people, in the villages and the, governorate cities. The healthcare basically is, having a lot of, improvement and a lot of, investment in this direction. Also, the water and the wastewater treatment, which has been, for a long time, and most of the villages with deprived from this kind of, health way of, draining the waste, solid waste. It used to be basically dependent on the septic tanks, in the houses and so. But now it's being now expanding, a lot of networks for the wastewater, and the wastewater treatment plants has been installed at the moment. We can see. I can say that my village myself has been entertaining this kind of service at the moment. So you can say that the healthcare, the waste, treatment, and sewage treatment, also the water, supply for most of the of the villages. So besides other activities and projects you have been referring to.
Dr. Hilal, I mean, all this work dealing with the infrastructure, it's really restructuring and reimagining the countryside all over Egypt. Now, with all of these projects and all of these infrastructure groundwork being laid out, did it need a lot of reimagination or redesigning of the actual villages to accommodate the new infrastructure projects and the new cables and the new roads and the new tunnels and bridges, establishing new schools or building new hospitals? Did you have to go through the redesigning and reimagination of the layout of the villages itself?
Sure. Exactly what you are saying, let me say that, over decades, since, the revolution of July 1952, who had, this overwhelming look to the whole villages of this country. I think, we can say fairly, no touch has been done for all the villages on that scale and on that level since decades. So, of course, now the countryside is being reshaped in terms of education level, in terms of the health care and, the service of the health care that has been now around at, your arm length, for everywhere in the countryside now. So, education level, go back with your memory how many people used to go on foot for schools, walking perhaps for kilometers to reach their, primary or the secondary school. Now, if you go to any village now, you can find, more than perhaps, a primary, a private school and secondary schools. So, nobody can ignore what's being done, and this will reflect definitely on the reshaping of the Egyptian villages.
Yes. Dr. Ibrahim Helal, the Professor of Engineering at Ain Shams University, thank you very much for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, obviously the Decent Life Initiative is a turning point for Egypt's countryside all over the country. Also part of the plan to achieve the sustainable development goals for Egypt 2030, the Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back.
The Decent Life or Haya Karima presidential initiative launched by President Sisi in 2019 is considered a turning point for countryside and is a major aspect of the 2023-2027 UN Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework, UNSDCF. This is reflected in Egypt's keenness to enhance joint partnerships with the United Nations and relevant entities to develop a clear and accurate vision of the UN's contribution to the initiative. This is also reflected in the state's keenness to enhance joint partnerships with the UN and relevant entities to develop a clear and accurate vision of the UN's contribution to the initiative. The Ministry of International Cooperation is working to incorporate the initiative into coming stages with all development partners. Minister Rania Al-Mashat met with Antonio Vigilante, the international consultant and former resident coordinator in Egypt for the UN and the UNDP, alongside Elena Panova, the current UN resident coordinator in Egypt. where a number of coordination and consultation meetings with ministries and relevant entities took place. The meeting included discussions establishing an integrated approach for the UN's interventions with the government of Egypt within the framework of the Rural Development Programme. The meeting also looked into the results of meetings held by Vigilant, the UN officials, including 25 consultations with government entities and stakeholders, alongside 2 field visits to 2 governorates that receive support from the initiative as a way to showcase efforts undertaken by the Egyptian government in the presidential initiative, alongside discussing opportunities for effective cooperation with the UN within the initiative's framework. Al-Mashat said that cooperation between Egypt and the UN comes within the framework of fruitful and constructive partnerships through the UN Partnership Development Framework, UNPDF for 2018-2022 and the new 2023-2027 UNSDCF, alongside a commitment by the Egyptian government to enhance cooperation with its multilateral and bilateral development partnerships. Furthermore, the minister stressed the strategic importance of discussions that take place within the framework of Decent Life initiative, which is the largest national project in the country's history that aims to achieve integrated development for over half the population by infrastructure projects and investment in human capital. She applauded the strategic partnership between Egypt and the UN, which has extended for decades and has achieved positive results across the various sectors, especially during the coronavirus pandemic.